All right, welcome everybody. We are really excited to continue this series. It's a 5-part series called Loving Yourself Through the Holidays, and I am joined with the very beautiful April Martinez and the very beautiful Shayla Slaugh. Thank you so much for doing this with me, ladies.
Thank you. I get so excited when you come up with cool class ideas.
Well, I have a million in my head. It's just a matter of getting them out and actually the time to do them, right? So today, we sort of took self-love and we divided it up into all of the different sort of aspects, because it's like we talked about on the last session, like it's more than just bubble baths. Like, yeah, you should take a bubble bath. You should do like these really nice things for yourself, but there's also these other pieces. Today's topic, we want to talk about boundaries and self-discipline. But before we dive into that conversation, I saved a quote that I saw on like a mom. It was like a mom forum. And I thought this was such a good way to kick off the class. So here's the quote. The holidays are not the time to put yourself last or on autopilot or in a frenzy. Mothers deserve magic too. Isn't that beautiful? I mean, I think it goes for everybody, not just mothers, but moms in particular have a tendency to take on the responsibility of basically navigating and managing holidays and trying to give everyone else this magical experience. And I know I've done this to myself. Like we wind up stressing ourselves out and like not even really enjoying the season. Like, has that happened for you ladies?
So one of the reasons why I don't like to do the big dinners and stuff anymore is because I spend all day in the kitchen when everyone's in the living room hanging out and having a good time. And I miss those moments with my family or with my friends or whoever's there. And so that's one of the reasons why I actually got really turned off away from the holidays.
So I am super thankful for my family actually in that area, because they will all hang out in the kitchen and pitch in, and it enables us to do things like this last weekend. We all got together and had a big dinner, or a big breakfast actually. But it's so nice that we can do that because everybody pitches in. And I think that's important to let our family members know, like, we need this from you because we want to be part of this, but I don't want to be in here cooking or cleaning. Everybody jumped up and did the dishes and helped put the food away. And, my house was actually in the shape it was in prior to that. So that's super nice. And it enables you to be able to not only connect with them, but like, it's like 5 minutes of work for each person, right? If everybody, pitches in. So I'm super lucky and thankful for my family in that aspect.
That's awesome. I just thought it was a good way to kind of start the discussion of, as we head into this season, if you do find yourself as one of those people that end up like doing everything, like what can you hand off or what can you delegate to other individuals? What can you let other individuals do? At the same time that I'm thinking of this, I ended up watching like an old movie. And I mean, this is like, I don't know, probably a 20-year-old movie with, Tina Fey. It's Date Night with Tina Fey and I think Steve Carell. I got his name right. Yeah. Okay. So there's a scene in that movie where she sort of is complaining about how she does everything. And he says, well, you don't let me do anything. And she's like, and he's like, I try to make the kids, sandwiches for lunch. And you're like, no, I got it. And she's like, well, that's because you let the jelly run off of the side. And our daughter doesn't like that. Right. I mean, it's like this really funny scene, but I thought it was funny watching it because I'm like, it's so true. Like we sometimes want things or expect things or would like things to be a certain way. So we're like, I'll just do it myself. I'm totally guilty of this. Like, I'll just do it myself. Because I can do it the way I want it done. But then I'm like, at the end of the day, still not really happy or enjoying myself because I took it all on myself. It's a tough thing to let go of, but it's a funny scene that I thought I would just bring up for people that maybe also struggle with this of like, maybe we could just let go of the expectations of the holidays and let it not be perfect. Let things be crooked. Let food come out not looking its absolute best, and just like tune into like being with everybody.
And that's one of the things that my husband and I were talking about was, in my family, we create these lavish dinners or whatever for, Thanksgiving, Christmas. And I mean, I just spoke with him about this the other day and I was like, I just want to do a casserole, something that I can pre-make when everybody comes over, I can throw in the oven and then I can just sit and we can play cards or put together a puzzle or just really spend some good quality time together, which in my mind is what the holidays are about, is being with your loved ones and not about the perfect food and having, everyone's eating 20 different sides and so we were just talking about just doing like a casserole and calling it good, but just really focusing on the quality time with the family.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that.
I love that too.
We often play games like after our get-togethers, and it's like one of our favorite things. Like everybody will play card games or Cards Against Humanity is quite hilarious with with my family. But whatever, or we'll just sit around and like talk, and it really is the best part of the holidays, of the get-togethers in general.
One of the things Tamara just said is potluck. Why not have everybody
Yes.
bring something?
Yes.
Yeah. That is usually how we do it. And it's so nice.
Yeah.
But
And
I think
everybody can take their own dishes home too. So that's great.
in my mind, it's become so set in presentation and decorating and especially with the holidays, everything's all about everything being perfect. And I love just talking about just let it go.
Yeah.
Yeah, it really doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Or people I have a friend who really stresses herself on the glass dishes, very, very stressed that she had to make all these baked goods for all these families. And I was like, why do you have to? And she's like, what do you mean? Well, and I was like, but why? Like, are they going to be like, hey, you didn't make us cookies this year? And she's like, well, no. So, she had put all this pressure on herself where it really wasn't an expectation or something that she had to do at all.
But we think we have to give of ourselves, right? So when we're
Mhm.
making all the cookies, we're giving them a piece of us. But if it's stressing you out, what pieces are you actually giving them?
Well, yeah, and I would rather my friend not be stressed than have the cookies, right? I'd rather see her happy and present with her family and enjoying her weekends instead of having a plate of cookies at my house.
Yeah, totally. I would say this is true too for Christmas cards. So like I've done Christmas cards like on and off over the years. And I've had like 1 year, because I'd done it pretty consistently for a few years. And then 1 year I didn't do it. I was honestly just like overwhelmed with life and was like, I just don't have it in me to do Christmas cards this year. Well, then I'm like I got a couple messages of like, I didn't get a Christmas card from you. Like, like, and I don't know. I think sometimes there could be like hurt feelings. I could be wrong, but like, oh, like, did I get taken off of that mailing list? Like, no, I just legit was having a hard time and like I was overwhelmed with life. And so that didn't get done. And that's okay. It's so if you don't get a card from somebody or you don't feel like sending cards out this year, like, don't. People will still love you.
They will. And maybe they just wanted like the cute reminder and the cute picture of you guys,
Yeah.
Which is cool. Say like, hey, what was your favorite part? I'll send you a picture of us.
Yeah.
Like, here you go. Right.
Right.
So this kind of comes down to self-discipline too, because self-discipline goes two ways. Sometimes we feel obliged, like we have to do something. And so we sacrifice ourselves in order to do it. But what are we not taking care of that we could be putting that energy towards in our own personal healing?
Well, and I think that's the difference between self-discipline and self-obligation. So self-discipline is something that's going to be good for you. So like, is what you're doing going to improve your life? Or is it something your body like needs? Right. So the difference between like working out or feeling obligated to help your family move. Right. So one of them is going to be better for you and is out of self-discipline and self-love. And one of them, you're probably going to be angry or resentful while you're doing it and not better for you, right? So I think that's great because it's the difference between the self-discipline and the self-obligation. It's not always making yourself do something that you don't want to do. Like how you feel after is a big like deciphering factor there.
So what tips would you have for somebody who is wanting to improve their self-discipline?
So I feel like if somebody wants to improve their self-discipline, we got to back up to boundaries, because the boundaries make it like, not that you can't do self-discipline without boundaries, but self-discipline is significantly harder if you have boundaries in place, right? So like if I don't have boundaries within myself, what do I let, boundaries with self-talk? That's like a good one to talk about. So boundaries with myself personally, but then also boundaries with the people around me. So like if I don't have proper boundaries in my relationships, then as soon as I set an intention to, let's say, do something good for my health, like go to the gym, let's just say go to the gym, for example, right? Like I'm going to go to the gym 3 times a week for the rest of the year because I want to keep myself physically fit throughout the holidays. That's just an example. Okay. Could be nutrition based, right? I want to eat vegetables every day, but I'm going to use the gym as an example. If I don't have proper boundaries with my family and they're constantly, or maybe it's with my employer, right? They're constantly pulling me and needing me and, not allowing me my me time, right? We talked about that last week. Not, maybe they need something right when I'm about to go to the gym. Oh, I have this school project. Here's a good example with kids, right? I have a school project and it's due tomorrow and I need your help tonight, but I had that scheduled for gym night. Well, now I'm skipping what I planned for myself to help someone else with something that's actually their responsibilities because I didn't have a proper boundary in place in the first place. So then I failed. Does that make sense? Like, so I feel like now I don't get to go to the gym. It's harder for me to keep myself disciplined, but really it goes back to like, first, let's work on the boundaries and, clearly communicating to the family, I'm going to be at the gym on these nights of this week. No ifs, ands, or buts. You need me. I'm not here. That would be my example.
I had a great example of that this morning too. Go ahead, April.
I just wanted to share my boundaries thing that these ladies have already heard from, but I want to share this with all of you. I have 2 cats and I've been watching my cats and I realize cats are the ultimate boundary makers. When I pick up my cat and he does not want to be loved on, he makes it very clear that I have stepped over his boundary.
Yes, in a not very nice way.
Yes. But that's also, they tell you when they want you and when they don't want you. They make it very clear. They draw a very strong line, at least with my cats.
They do, but like Becca said, they also don't respect boundaries. So you're going to respect theirs, but they do tend to push things.
I look at it as they show you where your boundaries are lacking.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Or put pressure on it, right? Like we know that as we draw boundaries, we're going to be tested, and they definitely test that, and we've seen that over and over. As soon as you are like, I'm not going to do this. Like something's gonna happen to be like, are you sure? Is that, are you gonna stick with that? Is that really where the line is? Yeah. And yeah,
you have to
definitely do that. You do.
Yeah. The universe won't let us just tell it, hey, this is my line. It goes, okay, let's see if it's actually the line or if you'll move the line.
Yeah. So what are other ways of self-discipline would you say? So we've talked about working out, right? What are other loving self-discipline things?
I like to do me time.
Yeah.
And that feels really indulgent, right? Like while you're doing it, but it does actually take discipline to be like, no, like I'm taking this time for myself.
Yes.
And I would say to make self-discipline easier, schedule those things that you actually really enjoy. Like I would not enjoy going to a gym and working out in front of somebody, whereas I prefer my stationary bike at my house. And so finding those things that you really enjoy makes it so much easier to stick to it.
Yes.
And know yourself. So learn to work around yourself. I know that I will not work out later in the day. Like the chances of it, I've done it a few more times recently because I'm like really like, no, I told myself I would do this. But the chances of me working out later in the day they're just slim to none. Okay. Like if I get home from work and I think I'm going to work out, it's not happening. So I know that for me personally, I have to wake up early and do it. And I don't mind that. That's fine. But if you're trying to just like work against yourself, if you know you're not going to get yourself out of bed ever, and then, oh, well, I didn't work out today, so you just write it off because that's when you had it planned. Like, you're not going to be super successful at that. So also keep in mind like the kind of person you are and like work with it instead of directly against it.
I think it comes down to what you're enjoying. Like
Yeah.
if you don't want to get up at 5 a.m. and work out, then don't.
Well, and it's not always enjoyable, but it's something that I know is good for myself. And I know like I feel better. I have a better attitude. I like am more conscientious of what I eat throughout the day. Like it overall sets the tone for my day. But I will talk myself out of it all day. If I'm at work for 13 hours, I'm like, oh man, I did like 5 extra flights of stairs today. Like I probably don't need to work out. Or like I really worked pretty hard, or I could be doing the dishes when I get home. So it's like, yeah, do what's fun, but sometimes this self-care stuff isn't fun.
Yeah.
Yeah. We'll justify it for sure to get out of. Yeah, we're really good at that.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and kind of going back to last week too, like talking about aiming for like one thing at a time.
Yeah.
Like, in my opinion, for self-discipline, is if this has been a challenging area for you, and this, I would say most people struggle with self-discipline, because we've been conditioned in a society. We're going to talk about conditioning in another week, right? They all go together though. We've been conditioned in a society to sort of be told when we have to be places and what we need to do. And, that's literally how we kind of came up in this society. And so to, as an adult, really truly learn self-discipline, unless your parents were really intentional about teaching you that, like it can be challenging. I would say it's a very common challenge. What we talked about last week is like committing to one thing. Like start with just one thing. Don't start with a whole list of things. And here's why I think that's important, is because sometimes we have to rebuild self-trust with ourselves and self-trust with our body. So if we have made promises in the past, like I'm going to do this program, or I'm going to go to the gym 3 times a week, or I'm going to do whatever, and we didn't do it, then we know that we've already broken these promises in the past. So when we set that intention again, we already have that like sort of self-doubt. So, does that make sense? Like we have this self-doubt sort of like swimming around. We then have to like rebuild trust with ourselves and also rebuild trust with our body, and show ourselves and show our body that we will consistently show up for you, for me, right? And the only way I know to do that is to start with one thing and do it consistently. And then do that every single day for 7 days. And then in week 2, you want to add in a second thing. Great. If you want to just keep the one thing for a little bit, like if you just want to do one thing for the rest of the year, you would be better off doing one thing for the rest of the year every single day consistently than aiming to do 10 things and hit or miss them for the rest of the year.
Well, you're going to stumble on each thing, right? You're never going to just start it and be perfect, or maybe you do, and good for you. But chances are you're going to have some struggles, right?
Yeah.
If you've started 5 different things and then you have your struggles with each thing, like your mind is like adding those up. Well, look, and usually if you're not talking to yourself nicely, it's like you failed at this and you failed at this and you failed at this and you failed at this. So since you were trying to do 5 different things, you may have just had the one stumble, but now you failed at 5 things and you're adding those up if you're not being really conscientious of that self-talk. So if you just have the one stumble, you're like, okay, I stumbled today and it will get better.
This is also great to have accountability partners when you're really working on this, is start telling people that you're doing it, because then you feel, I hate to say this, but a little more pressure to actually follow through with it. And so sometimes this little tiny manipulation can really help you actually accomplish that habit. And, so having an accountability partner, or, and going into partners, we do have a question here from Jessica. What do you do when you get pushback from your partner/family? Maybe you don't have to deal with that, but sometimes I feel like they are disappointed or annoyed that I have chosen to do something without them.
Yeah, that's a tough one. That's a tough one. It's very real. I think we all face that in some way, shape, or form in a relationship. I don't think anybody makes changes in their lives without getting some sort of pushback, whether it's from their family or a close friend, or another family member or their employer. There's always going to be the pushback. And my heart goes out to you because that is tough, but that also is where kind of boundaries come back into place.
And I think empathizing with them is helpful. Like, I
Mhm.
understand that you might be disappointed that I'm not spending the time with you today. But I just need these couple hours for me, and this is what I'm going to do. Or if you're going to work out, like, hey, you're welcome to join me. I'd love to have you join me and we can spend that time together as well. And then, that's up to them. Sometimes they're like, ew, what? Like, I don't. Okay, well, this is what I'm going to do, and that's the boundary right there. Like, this is what I need. This is healthy for me. This is important to me. And sometimes just saying those things helps them understand, like, okay, this is important to them. So, like, maybe I'll be okay for, the hour or the 20 minutes or whatever without.
Well, and I really like the way you said that. If you explain to them why you're doing it, if it's somebody that truly should be in your life, then they're going to listen to you and they're going to respect that. Now, if somebody is not respecting that and almost trying to sabotage you, then you really need to take a look at that relationship and see whether it serves your higher good or not.
Yeah, because anybody that I love, if they were like, hey, I think this is the best thing for me and it's really important to me, I'm going to be supportive of that.
Yeah. And I've even I communicated to my kids just yesterday. I was debating on what I wanted to share personally. So it's like I had a couple of stories in my head, but I communicated actually yesterday to my kids because they had interrupted a meditation. And I got really kind of like frazzled about it. And I wound up coming out and like explaining to them, when I take this time for myself, it's not that I don't want to hang out with you. It's that I feel like I bring a more patient and a more loving mom to you. So I feel like you get this more loving, patient, compassionate version of me than if I don't take the time to do this. I feel like I come out and I snap at you and I'm impatient and I'm moody. And like, which mom would you rather have? You could do this and really any role in a relationship. But that was just my way of like communicating to them in a way that they kind of understood. And they were like, we want the nice mom. And I was like, because we've all been the mom where you like yell and snap at your kids. And so I just like literally explained that to them and they were like, yeah, we want the nice mom. And I was like, so then when I'm in here in a meditation, can you please not interrupt me? And they were like, okay.
And that's part of where you brought up that book at the last class of the not nice. Sometimes you just have to be very firm and with what you're wanting to do. And like, Shayla said earlier, you draw that boundary and somebody's going to push it.
Yes.
And for the record, that book is amazing. I loved it. So far, Becca's loving it. But just for anybody who really has a hard time with boundaries or people pleasing or just like the idea of that, because it was kind of, terrifying for me at first. Like, I can just say no to people, like, and they're not going to hate me.
Are you sure?
It actually was really bad. So I just highly recommend that to anybody. It's a lengthy book, but has a lot of like reflection areas and a lot of journaling passages and stuff. And it's just a gold mine. So if you're here, obviously boundaries might be a thing for you or self-love, and that's a great place to start too.
Yeah,
I want
Shayla.
to I want to share with Jessica. So when part of my personal self-care is spending a lot of alone time with myself because I am the coolest person to hang out with. And my husband had a real big issue with this when I started pushing this. And he would be, well, it's like you don't love me, or, and not coming from like a narcissistic way, but that's truly how he was feeling. And I had to have the same conversation with him, like Becca was talking about with her children, was the only way that this marriage works is when I have this time with myself to where I can work through my stuff and then be the better wife when I'm done. And it's taken a lot of years, but now he actually appreciates when I take my alone time because I am better with him and I'm not grouchy and, getting snippy and.
Yeah. The other thing I would add to it is that we have to remember that when we're making changes in our lives, that anyone else around us, like it can kind of like ignite a fear in others. Like we as human beings naturally do not like change. So like when one person is like, I'm gonna change this and this and this, the spouse or the partner or the parent or the sibling or the best friend, whoever, okay, it could be anyone in your life, might then ignite a fear in them of like, oh no, well, if they change, what are things going to look like then? Like, what is our relationship? And especially as you do start to sort of go down that path of truly following through, you might get some more pushback because then they're like concerned because they don't know exactly where you're going with this and they don't know exactly how that's going to affect their relationship with you. And like, is this going to change things? So like, we don't like the fear of the unknown. We have to kind of just understand that we might bring that out in someone else. And that's part of why they might push our boundaries. But then also just reassuring to them, like April was saying, like, I love you. It's not that I don't love you. I want to spend time, like I told my kids, I want to spend time with you. It's not that I don't want to spend time with you. It's that I need this time so that when my time with you can be as valuable as possible. So just kind of going back to really communicating and reassuring them that you're just doing it for yourself, but that you're still there for them and you still love them. And reassuring them so that they're not like, well, what's next?
And yes, that probably will change your relationship with people.
Yes.
I think people are really scared of that, but you don't want to be like untruthful with them. Like it probably will change things.
Yes.
Usually for the better, unless they're taking advantage of you or then it's for the better for you, but they have a reason to be nervous, right? Because you're going to start saying no and you're going to start doing things that are better for you and not just best for them.
And you're not putting their needs before your own needs. So of course they're going to feel kind of uneasy about that. They're used to you putting them first. But the thing is that people that really truly belong in your life, they will respect you and love you through that. So what will happen is some of your dynamics will completely change. You might have a relationship that wasn't a healthy dynamic, and now all of a sudden it opens up this doorway for it to become a healthy dynamic. And then you might have other relationships that you might have to let go of, or maybe you have to minimize contact with. Like, that's really the truth of the matter. But you have to start with taking care of yourself and see where that goes. And the people that truly love you and respect you will, they'll appreciate that you did that.
Also, when you're working on you and those people around you start seeing the changes in you, you could also be inspiring them to step into that uncomfortable change and start doing those things for themselves. So, we talked about in the last class, self-sacrifice and things like that. Why not have that type of self-sacrifice where you're drawing those strong boundaries and you're saying, I'm going to do this for me, and this is why. Because then later when you're smiling more, or you just really feel so much better and people can feel that coming from you, you just might reach them and start them on their healing journey also.
Yeah. And I've seen this pretty distinctly in my family. And it was hard at first, especially with, we have a certain couple people that like drawing the boundaries were very, very difficult with. And it's changed the way our relationship is, but I feel like it's there's a lot more respect going both ways. And we are able to have a deeper connection when we're both being like open and honest and caring for ourselves first. But that's inspired definitely other people in my family to do the same things and to really start standing up for themselves. And I think there's a lot less like low key resentment going on. There's never like a lot of like, you know, bad resentment, but when you're not putting yourself first, like that's a common emotion to have. And you don't want to be like resenting your family because you can't draw boundaries.
Yeah, or like the passive aggressive comments or that, I mean, if we're just going to have real talk, right? Like this can happen where they can get passive aggressive or make like snarky comments, like kind of pushing your boundaries, but in a way of like testing, are you going to feel selfish for it? Are you going to feel guilty for taking that, you know? That was a tough one for me, of like not feeling guilty about it. It took me a while to get to a point where like somebody would make a comment trying to like feed the guilt within me. And in the past, I would take that comment and I would go feel guilty. I'm like, I am selfish. Like, why, you know, maybe I shouldn't be having time to myself. Now, what I would do if somebody slings like a guilt comment at me, I would make a joke about it. And I would be like, oh, we're going to go there. Okay. You know, I would literally just try and like make a joke and make it light, to sort of just like gently and lovingly point out to that person that that's not a, you know, or even just say to them, like, that's not really an appropriate thing for you to say to me.
Yeah, that's not very helpful. And I'm not being selfish. You don't
I
have
don't
to feel bad for taking care of yourself.
Yeah.
Like it's such a weird thing that like, oh, you're so selfish for like making your plate first. Like, I'm sorry, what? I have to eat. Like, I mean, if you have kids, you have to make their plates a little differently, but a little different. But it's just like such strange things are ingrained that like we shouldn't take care of ourselves first. And we absolutely should. If everybody did this and everybody showed up to their relationships as their best self, think how much better like the whole world would be if everybody like was their best self before they interacted with people all day, every day, before they interacted with their spouses and their children and their children's teachers and on and on and on, you know, the clerks at the anywhere, you know, cashiers, waitresses, if everybody was their best self, like before they interacted with others, the whole world would just be better.
I want to bring up something more, talking about like vibration and frequency. You know, if any of you have ever read any of David Hawkins' books, where he talks about the different frequencies. But one of the things that I'm sure Becca and Shayla have also experienced is when we're working on ourselves, we're raising our frequency and we're raising our vibration, and we start vibrating much faster, faster, faster. And the people that are around us that are vibrating at a much lower frequency, we almost become uncomfortable with, and they become uncomfortable with us because we feel different. And they'll try to bring you down, not in a mean or like a menacing way, but
conscious even.
Yeah.
Usually.
You're not feeling as comfortable, and they're trying to bring you back down to where you feel comfortable again. But you have to remember, when you're vibrating high and you're staying at that faster, higher frequency, right? You're also trying to bring them up to meet you. So the longer you can stay at that frequency, the more that you're able to bring them up to meet you where you're at, and rather than you dropping down to meet them where they're at. And so sometimes the snarky comments will come from that because they no longer feel comfortable.
And sometimes people will drop out for that reason. But the good news is other people who are vibrating at similar frequencies to you and on similar paths will come into those positions. You know, we hope that everybody does choose to better themselves consistently and to, you know, join on the higher vibrational planes, but not everybody will. And that's going to be hard. Like, we're not going to lie to you and say, oh, it's fine, just let people walk away, it's great. April might tell you that, but you know, it's not easy for most people to have people leave your life. But if they're not serving the best you, and they don't like that you are serving the best you, then they really shouldn't have a place in your life.
Unless they're trying. I would like to say if
Yeah.
they're actually giving an effort and trying, you know, like my personal opinion is I'll stay as long as they're trying. I'll continue the relationship. It's the moment they give up.
And
And
then
give
they
up
won't
for a
really
long
fall out though. If they're trying, like they won't just kind of fall away. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
the growth, it's the growth piece of it. Like if they're growing too, and the relation, which means the relationship is growing and evolving and developing this new dynamic, then you may not feel called to end it, right? There might just be, you can feel when you can feel growth and progress, like that's one of the things that fulfills us more than just about anything else is progress. So if you can feel that progress happening in the relationship, even if you have the difference in frequencies, which there's nothing wrong with that, like we're all just on different journeys. Like my husband and I over the years, like we've done this. So one year I might have raised up a little bit and then he might have actually, you know, and we sort of sometimes do this like back and forth dance, but we're always like growing, evolving together. We might not always be exactly on the same frequency, and that's okay. But I think as long as you can feel that growth and that progress, and like April says, that effort. And by the way, you put that beautifully. I love David Hawkins. He is like one of my like favorites to read. You know, so really pay attention to the relationships. Are they growing and evolving? Or is it the same old problems you had 10, 20 years ago? And there's no change happening. Like that's what we're talking about, is like if you're trying to grow and the other person's not making an effort at all, like you'll feel that for sure. But way to put that. That was a really beautiful explanation. I love David Hawkins. It's great.
So I want to just kind of explain too about boundaries and it being uncomfortable. And I want to share with you guys a very specific instance that happened with me last week, where I had a friend call me in the morning. I was kind of going through some emotional things. I didn't want to talk to anybody, didn't want to speak with anybody. And she called, and what has always been in the past is if I see she called, I call her back. And that morning I didn't want to talk to anybody. And so later that day, she actually came into my office and she goes, "Oh, well, you never called me back." And I wasn't thinking, and I wasn't realizing the words like, you know, speak before you think. And I told her, I said, "Oh, I didn't call you back because I didn't want to talk to you." And the look of heartache on her, like, and I had to explain, no, I didn't want to talk to anybody. And I'm just being honest with you. Like, I'm not making up an excuse. I'm not lying about it. I'm just being very honest. I did not want to speak to anybody, and that's why I didn't call you back. And once I explained it to her, then she was understanding, you know, but when I first blurted out, "I just didn't want to talk to you." You know, I hurt her feelings, and that was not my intention.
That.
Imagine that. Oh,
Poor
goodness.
thing. But I also think it's a good point of like being honest, and like, why do we feel like we have to make up like excuses or explanations in relationships? Like, you know, why can't we just say, you know, if somebody asked me to do something, like, I don't really want to do that. Don't want to, you know, I don't want to hurt your feelings, but I also don't want to sit here and make up a fake excuse to get out of it. Like, I just don't want to do it. Can we just be that honest with each other and like not take it personally? Because that would be really awesome.
And then you connect on a deeper level because you don't have the crap. Like then she understands April on a deeper level of sometimes, you know, she needs the time alone or whatever, if she didn't already understand you on that level. But like she knows you now in that way. Whereas before, if you were like, "Oh yeah, sorry, I just forgot and was doing the dishes," or whatever, like she wouldn't have got that opportunity to connect with like the real you.
Yeah.
And that's where Tamara just came on and said, "April, you and I are a lot alike. Our mouths are honest, but people perceive us as harsh." Tamara, I want to share with you that my husband tells me this regularly. You are so rude, because I'm just honest with people. And I don't want to tell the white lies. I'm just going to tell you exactly how it is. But in returns, if you have a relationship with me, I draw that very clear boundary with people and say, I am going to be very honest with you, and I expect the same in return.
Yes. And like Shayla was saying, when we open up to this and we are truly authentic and honest, we actually end up having much deeper relationships. So yeah, sometimes the first couple times, you know, you're honest with somebody is uncomfortable. Maybe the first couple times somebody else is honest with you, it's uncomfortable. But then you kind of get over this hump and you have this deeper, more meaningful connection, and you can fully be yourself. Like that's one of the things that I really appreciate about my relationship with you ladies, is that I show up and I'm just me. Like I'm not showing up in how I think you want Becca to show up, because I used to do this in the past of like, how does this person want me to be? And we don't even, and this is unconscious, I should clarify that. Like when I did that, it was very unconscious. It took me a while to become aware that I was kind of like different people, a little bit of a different way with different people, but getting to a place where I could just like authentically be me, unapologetic about it. This is me, take it or leave it. I'm good either way. Like I love you no matter what. And if we disagree, I'm good to still be friends if you are. If not, that's cool too. Like you actually end up having more deeper, meaningful relationships, and it's
And
just
you can grow more. You see that with our relationships. And it's funny when we have girls weekend, like we'll all be in pajamas all weekend. Like we literally don't care. We are just who we are. Here it is. But we can be really honest with each other, and that opens up the opportunity for more growth. Because if I send something to you guys and I'm like, hey, how does it look? Or vice versa, we're not going to just be like, oh yeah, looks great. We're going to be like, hey, so this is like weird right here, and there's typos here, and what are you talking about? I don't understand this. But like then you're growing as a person. And again, you can't do this with everybody because everybody doesn't have your best interest at heart. But we're lucky enough to have found a group where like we know each of us does. So, you know, when we're getting those course corrections or that input, even if it's harsh and uncomfortable for a little bit, you know, we have the F you and I love you too, when things are hard to hear, but we know that they're coming from a place of love. Like you can grow more than you can being fake with people.
So Tanya asked if I have a tone. Here's how I work my boundaries with those that are more of like an associate friendship, is I'll try very politely to kind of touch on it in a very nice way. And then when they push that boundary, I get a little bit stronger, and I keep getting a little bit stronger as they keep pushing that boundary. And eventually it will come to where I am just going to be downright rude and be like, look, I'm trying to draw this boundary and you are not respecting it. And we have a problem here. And so in the beginning, my tone is very light because most people don't realize that they're doing this to you, that they're pushing those boundaries. And so I'll try to do it in a very polite and friendly way. But the more that this is where my temper gets me, the more that they push and the more that they push, the more that they make me mad.
And it doesn't have to be polite and friendly all the time either. Like it also can depend on the infraction. So I work in an environment where people, I don't know, apparently don't know boundaries at all. But there are some things that are said and I'll just straight up be like, that's highly inappropriate and I don't appreciate it. And they're like, wait, what? But like, I wouldn't want to be lighthearted in that scenario because then I don't think they would take it seriously. So it's going to depend on, of course, the infraction, who you're talking to, your relationship with that person, and how it makes you feel. Even if they didn't have intentions, but it like really hurt you, you're okay to be a little like more straightforward and like, hey, don't do that ever again. Like that's okay.
Yeah, for sure. This hurt, like it's okay to communicate this hurt my feelings. I think also just to kind of add to that, I think it's really, really good to be firm and direct. But if you're getting to a place where like you feel like your anger is going to be triggered, and then maybe like before you get, you know, the goal would be next time before I get to an angry place, what is the consequence? And how can I communicate that consequence in a loving way? So like, my husband and I, we watch very different things. Like we don't, you know, if we're watching something on TV, I don't watch a lot of TV, but when I do, I want it to be like light and funny and like I'm just like relaxing and laughing if I'm gonna watch something. And he'll watch some things that I just personally, it's just not something I want to do. So like I will communicate with him. This has actually happened. I've communicated to him like, hey, I don't want to watch some of these things. Like they just really upset me, and it's hard for me, like emotionally and energetically. It doesn't bode well for me. I can't sit and watch those. I just want you to let you know. So if you ever do want to watch them, that's totally fine. I will leave the room. So if he puts on something disturbing, my consequences, I leave the room. No hard feelings. Like, love you. That's just not going to be when I hang out with you. We'll hang out another time. But then like going and looking at the situation of like, what is the potential consequence? It doesn't mean that the relationship has to end in that moment, but is there another consequence that could be worked in there, but communicate the consequence up front, to just throw that's kind of the difference between consequence and punishment. But
yeah, I was gonna say, and not consequences as a punishment, just
yes,
as a,
yes,
I'm respecting my own boundaries. I don't like that, so I'm not going to be around for it.
yes,
And that's not saying I don't like that, so I'm going to punish you every time you do it.
yeah.
Again, care, like obligation versus like self-care.
And that's where I do want to say, because I guess maybe I came off a little, when I get to the anger point at that time, I've already pretty much realized that this relationship does not serve my best good. And at that point, I don't really care what they think of me, because they've done something to really overstep my boundaries, make me feel very violated.
Okay.
And it's not somebody that I would want in my relationship, or, I don't want to be in a relationship with them anymore. And so I do want to just make that clear. Like sometimes we have like associates of our partner or of another friend, and you're just trying to be friendly and not push this person away, or like coworkers, things like that. And so when I get to the anger point, I've already come to the realization that this relationship is going to end, that this relationship is very toxic for me. And that's when I become authentically April and tell it exactly how it is. And I also don't care, for some of you that know me, I don't care what people think of me when I'm being true to myself. So I will draw the line in a very, very strong manner.
Good.
Love it.
So before we get off, I want to talk about some boundaries that are distinctly related to the holidays. Some more of those.
Yes.
What do you guys think?
Yes, do it. And then I have one more thing I want to add on self-discipline. So that'll be a good way to wrap up.
So one of the boundaries that I get is I tell people, do not get me presents. It makes me very uncomfortable in some cases. I am one of those people that I don't actually like being forced to buy presents. I want to just run across something. I was thinking of you, here's a gift. And I also don't keep things. So if you spend $20 on a knickknack, more than likely it's going to wind up in the garbage. So I'm very clear in my boundaries of do not buy me presents. If I want something, I will tell you. And people will overstep because they feel obligated. And it actually makes me feel very uncomfortable to receive those. So there's a boundary
for another time, but thank you for sharing. I feel like there's a piece of that we have to follow. We like privately need to have another.
No, but that's actually a boundary that happens to me in the holidays.
Yeah, I'm not disagreeing. I'm agreeing with what you shared, and I totally get where you're coming from. And I love dropping the obligation, but there's a piece of that we all need to follow up with on another conversation off of here.
Agreed.
But I know what you mean. That it's the obligation piece that is just like, oh my gosh.
And you're not obligated to do anything on the holidays. Like sometimes my family will try to guilt me into being there. Well, I have a lot of family, guys. Okay. Like I have like, my grandma and grandpa shoemaker. I have to go to their house, and like my other grandma, and then I have family out in the valley. And then like my stepdad does a separate thing and my stepmom does a separate thing. And like, there's only one of me. Okay. And like, I don't get to enjoy the holidays if I'm trying to go all 12 places, right? I don't get to actually like sit and connect with people. So Like, I just decide what's going to work best for me that year, where I can and can't make it. And like, that's what we can do. So that's like me drawing a boundary of what fits for me best versus what everybody else wants of me.
Mhm.
And just communicating that to people, like, I love you and I really do want to spend time with you during the holidays. I'd love to catch up the day before or the day after or the following week, in the spirit of the holidays, but I just can't make it everywhere all
Yeah.
the time. Mhm.
I love
And you
it.
don't have to go anywhere. Like, if you just seriously hate like going to your mother-in-law's house or whatever, like, talk to your family about that. Like, hey,
Yeah.
I'd like to go, but like, I only want to stay for an hour. You can stay, but like, I'm gonna leave after an hour.
Yeah.
Like,
Like enjoy the day. Kind of
yeah,
like circling back to the beginning of the conversation. Like we should all get to enjoy the holiday season. Like what can you do? This was what I wanted to kind of like make sure we covered before we get to the end, but like think about the holiday season and what gives you anxiety.
and can
Like,
you cut it out?
and can you cut it out? Can you cut the time down? Can you tweak something? Can you walk away from a and maybe I had this happen to me where like somebody would corner me and constantly try and like bait me into a debate, like every single family function. And I'm like, oh my God, like how many times do I have to say I don't care, And so
Mhm.
I finally just started like, I don't know about that. And I just walk away. And eventually so many times of just walking away and not engaging, then that person doesn't do that anymore. So it's like, what gives you anxiety when you think about going to the family function, or when you think about just the holiday season in general? Like, what gives you anxiety? Now let's take a step back. What can we do about it so you could actually go and enjoy yourself?
Yeah, they're
Or
meant
stay
to be
home.
like fun and loving and happy and like
Yeah.
not full of anxiety
Yeah.
at
Or stay
all.
home if you need to stay home, like figure out what it is that will have you enjoy as well.
Yeah, if it makes you happy, just do it. I've seen so many Christmas trees up already this year, and it makes my heart so happy that people are just not caring at all. When like, okay, if you want to, I want to have mine up all year, and I probably will this next year, okay? Because I don't have anybody to tell me I can't. So, like, because it makes me happy. So why? Why should I have to take it
Yeah.
down because other people like think it's not the appropriate time?
And this is we're gonna have to bring this up when we talk about the deconditioning.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Oh, yes, yes, yes. This is a lot of, the deconditioning. I have Christmas lights up inside of my house year round.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love it. The ambiance is just great. Like,
Yeah, they were on last night. They're white, they're beautiful. I turned the other lights off and turned the little white Christmas lights on. And I'm like, we haven't actually decorated yet. They just are up all year, but I love it. Why
yeah.
is there a rule that says when you should? Yeah, that is a deconditioning conversation for sure.
Okay, we have another one. What if you don't want to stay and support your partner at whatever party? You can say no and leave. And I would like to take this one.
Go for it.
This happens to me both at my family and at my husband's family sometimes. I've literally just told my husband, I can't do this anymore. I'm going home. You have a great time and do what makes you happy, but I am not comfortable, or I'm not happy right now, or whatever's going on, and then I leave.
And that's perfectly acceptable. And if they care about you, they should say, okay, yeah, I don't want you to be uncomfortable. And they might be feeling a little of, well, I wish you were there to share it with me. And it is more fun when you're there. But overall, like, you being happy should be high on that list.
I went and saw
love
my
it.
grandmother, who I hadn't seen since I was 16 years old. My husband's very much a family man, right? And after about 2 days, I told my husband, I'm ready to leave. And he was like, but this is your family. And I was like, no, I'm uncomfortable.
Okay.
I'm ready to leave. And we left.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. And you don't have to drag him along either. Like, that's fine. Like, give him that autonomy. And I feel like that's where that creates like some weirdness you can be very clear with like, if you want to stay, I will not be offended. Please do stay. But that gives you both the opportunity again to do what will make you happy individually.
Mhm.
And then consequently, you're more happy with each other. It's
Yeah.
a lot different situation if you're like, I want to leave and you need to leave with me right now.
But that's where you
Okay.
can have that conversation with your partner prior to the situations where you just say, look, this is something I'm working on, and I'm trying to keep myself out of these uncomfortable situations. So if we're somewhere and I tell you cucumber, it means I need to leave, that I am uncomfortable. And so at the party, you could be like, I think I really want a cucumber sandwich. And then, and then he gets the clue.
Yeah. And then you guys can like step out and discuss like, okay, well, you take the car and I'll call you when I need a ride, or I'll catch a ride home or whatever. Like,
Yeah.
then you can go at that together.
And it's
They're
still
just
being
thinking-
supportive of each other.
Yeah.
That's like more supportive of each other than trying to stay there and be miserable.
Yeah. I feel like we just need more like open and honest communication. And sometimes what happens too is the other person doesn't want to be there either. And so they just don't want to be alone and not be there. You know what I mean? And like,
Yeah.
this isn't always the case, but this happens where like, if I say, I don't actually want to go, then, my husband's like, I don't want to go either, but I don't want to go by myself. I'm like, then why don't we just not go? And he's like,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Like,
And then it's one of those moments where you're like, that's allowed. Like,
yeah. But like, we
allowed.
are kind of raised of like, that's not allowed, but like, who said that's not allowed? Like, so we should all go get together. And okay, there's a movie I want to share real quick because Thanksgiving is coming up. It's an old movie and it's my favorite Thanksgiving movie. It's called Home for the Holidays. And I'm drawing a blank. Robert Downey Jr. is in there. Oh, her name is on the tip of my tongue. Anyways, it was not like a huge famous movie. So you can get it like, the $5 bin or whatever. But it's about a family getting together on Thanksgiving and like nobody wants to be there. Like, no, they're all, and they get in this fight and like it's hilarious, but it's kind of true. So like we watch that every Thanksgiving because we just think it's funny of like, but why do we as human beings do this? Like
conditioning. I can't wait for that class. I
Yeah.
feel like it's going to be super exciting because
That
like we
was
said,
gonna
it all blends together. These all go together. When you're creating different boundaries, you're breaking the conditioning and you're loving yourself, creating those boundaries. So it all goes together.
Yeah. Awesome. Any other questions?
I don't have
And that
any
was
more on
great.
my
Thank you
end.
for the questions.
Then I would just wrap up with like, take a look at where you have anxiety about the holidays and then take a step back and go, what can I do? Like, what do I have control over? If I have anxiety about cleanup, who can I ask for help with? If I have anxiety about this relative cornering me and having a conversation I, don't want to have a quick phrase of what you're going to say and walk away, like have that prepared beforehand. Like, we have kind of like our years go kind of similarly, like we'll have the same similar event. So like, if you have something that's giving you anxiety, what can you do to prevent that, minimize that, or avoid that?
And we can help you with some of these ideas too.
Yes.
So
yes.
feel free to reach out to us afterwards. Not saying that we're like experts, but we actually discuss boundaries a lot. So we get a lot of ideas from each other.
And also sometimes you just have to learn something from those people too. So sometimes, and this is where I appreciate our friendship, is like having another perspective to like, maybe if you just like looked at it from a slightly different angle, you realize that person didn't intend to corner you and try and get you in a debate. They actually had an entirely different intention. And once you see it from a different angle, all of the anxiety lifts. And that's just like one example, but that's why it can be helpful to communicate with each other and just.
That happens with us a lot.
Yeah.
And I think that's why we share so many of our personal stories, because if you see how we've dealt with it in real life and not just as a hypothetical situation, we hope that you get something from that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we have a question here. What if your holidays are spent alone?
Oh, yeah, we didn't cover that. Thank you.
No, and I feel like I need more clarification on what we're asking there.
I personally would love to spend the holidays alone. That would, and I know this sounds really, really bad, but this also, we'll talk more about this in the deconditioning. I really buck society and what society tells me I do, what I have to do. So if society says you have to be together with a family, like, and you have to be with all your friends and you have to go to all the parties, I'm pretty much going to do the exact opposite.
Well, and I feel like it depends on if you want to be alone or not. So for
Yeah.
you, you want to. If you don't want to be alone, there's lots of ways around that. And that's one good thing about the holidays is people are super welcoming. You know, you don't have to be alone. You can get together with just friends. You can get together and, you know, work at a soup kitchen and really connect with people that way. You can, you know, all sorts of ways to connect with people if that's what you desire.
And really, if you have those good people in your life and you tell them, like, I mean, like I have very honest friendships. So for me, it would be very easy for me to say, hey, Shayla, I'm going to be alone for the holidays. Do you care if I come by?
I would
And
be like, absolutely, you know. And again, one thing that I love about my family, it is not weird for me to like, hey, my friend was going to be alone, so now they're part of our Christmas. And everybody's like, great. Like sometimes my family will literally be like, what do they like? I want to pick them up a small gift. And they'll just go get them something, you know, small, like oh, we just didn't want you to, you know, feel left out when we were opening gifts. So we went and got you like a cool coloring book or something, you know, like if they know what they're into. So I feel like people are really, really welcoming,
and
especially
it's
in this
very
area.
hard, I think, for us to be vulnerable and say those things to other people.
Yeah.
But I'm a firm believer that when you're vulnerable is when you become the most powerful. So when you open yourself up like that to somebody, then that's actually where you get a lot of your power from. So when you're telling someone, hey, you know, I'm going to be alone, and you're worried that they're going to look down on you for some reason.
Yeah,
Number one,
or
if
think
they're
you're
looking,
weak or
yeah, if they're
whatever.
looking down on you, they need to leave. If, you know, but most people are genuinely loving, kind, caring people, and they want to be with you, but they also don't know if you already have plans, so they haven't invited you.
And then again, you get that opportunity to connect. So instead of staying at home alone, if you don't want to be, right, and you're sad and you're depressed and you're lonely, and if instead you called me up and I was like, great, come on over. Like you're probably going to laugh until you cry while we're playing Cards Against Humanity, and you're definitely going to get to eat, and you're going to meet 27 new people, like, you know, who like really are genuinely interested in like wanting to know you, and you just got to connect with a whole bunch of new people, you know, where you would have missed out on that whole opportunity if you weren't vulnerable.
Or even look around, who around you is single that maybe might be having the same situation, and you just walk up to them and say, hey, are you doing anything for Christmas?
Yeah.
Yeah. Just connect.
Ladies, you put that so beautifully. I love it. Like just, you know, be vulnerable, put yourself out there. I would say if you still, you know, if you still don't have an option, I know you already, you know, talked about volunteering. Like, is there some place you can volunteer? You know, I've even heard of somebody like baking, like doing like baked goods and going and delivering them to the 24-hour businesses where people didn't get the day off, like hotels, hospitals, nursing homes. I don't know if you still can go in there with COVID, but
Gas
just kind of shared that
stations.
too of like, go gift something, just like some baked goods or something to the community where people had to work, and then you're still getting connection and you're like, you're spreading love. Like, how amazing is that?
Who speaks dog that can understand what Bella's trying to tell us?
Because she wants to contribute something. So if that didn't answer your question, feel free to like touch base with April, I think is your contact, or any of us, and we'll try to get a little deeper into what you.
And maybe even you really inspire something in other people and you set up something and post on Facebook. Hey, if you're alone, come to my house. We're going to play cards. We're going to do a potluck.
Mhm.
you know, and you might be able to reach, you know, 10 other people that are in the same situation, but that are a little afraid to be vulnerable and speak to other people. And maybe you actually inspire a new tradition.
Yeah. I love
Wow.
that.
Sorry, guys.
It's okay.
What was the advice she was sharing with us?
Me? Oh, Bella?
Yeah, she had
That someone
something she
is
wanted to
here and
contribute.
she's here to protect us from the, you know, from the delivery drivers of packages. Like,
You're like, no, we want them to come.
She's drawing very good boundaries, Becca.
she is, yeah, she's very good with protecting her home. She takes it very seriously.
Good.
Don't
Okay.
recommend anyone come break into my house.
Noted.
Or just walk in unannounced. It's not going to be pretty.
Okay,
Thank
so
you,
I think,
ladies.
yeah, we're a little over time, but I think we needed to fit that last part in.
Yeah. And what are we talking about next in the next class?
I don't know. I'd have to look at the list. It might be conditioning.
I
I'll
don't
take a
know
look
either.
at the list,
Can that
but I wanna-
one be 2 hours, please?
I don't know.
No, I feel like I
Yeah.
just want to hang out on here the whole time. Hold on and I'll look it up, maybe. My email's being super slow.
I
What
want
do
to
we
thank
have?
everybody for questions too. I would say if you're catching if you catch this on the replay and you have questions, like still drop your questions. We'll add them
Yeah.
to the next show, which is Monday, November 29th.
Yes, so that will be right after Thanksgiving.
Yes.
And what are we going over?
Don't know
I
yet.
love it. We're both trying to look it up.
We're trying to pull it up.
I was like, we can post about it.
We can.
I love that so
Oh.
many of you have engaged with us and just shared with us because,
Yes.
oh, I just love it. I absolutely love it.
It is
It is.
deconditioning and shifting beliefs.
Yes.
Oh, yay. So obviously we're very excited about that. We're a little excited today to hop right into deconditioning. So great. Then we'll see everybody next time. Then you can have some questions. And like both of you guys have said, we love the questions. We love that you guys are engaging and connecting. This is obviously something we're really passionate about, and we had to kind of learn it the hard way. So we want to share everything that we've learned.
And by the way, for all of you watching, we do not prepare for these. So we don't have
We
a
don't.
prepared
I
thing
have
that we're gonna.
quotes, but yeah.
Yeah, we don't get together and talk about what we're gonna talk about. We let these just flow based off of what you guys comment and what you guys ask. We just flow off of that. And please take a minute and share these videos. Share them, share them, share them, because you don't know how many people need to hear the same thing that you guys have asked. They have the same questions you guys have asked, or they need to hear one of our experiences. So please take a moment and share this. We are right into the holidays right now. So many
Yes.
people are going to be searching.
Yes.
Yeah.
Please.
Yeah. Okay. Well, thank you,
Awesome.
everybody.
Thank you, ladies.
Thank you. And all of you have a wonderful Thanksgiving, since we won't see you until after.
Yes. Happy Thanksgiving. Grateful for all of you.
Yes. Have fun drawing your boundaries during Thanksgiving. Like, ask for help. I feel like that's the one thing I need to tell people. It's like, if you're hosting Thanksgiving, don't feel bad telling people like, hey, so can everybody come help me clean up real quick? Okay. So you can enjoy it too. Like, draw those boundaries and just set that precedent. It's fine. Or say, hey, I'm just overwhelmed, like cooking. Can everybody bring something? So this is like, you have a prime opportunity coming right up in a week.
Practice it. What can you practice? Yes.
Yep.
Yeah. Again, going back to like, what do you have anxiety about? And then be prepared to approach it differently than you have in the past.
All right. Thank you, ladies.
Okay.
Thank you to all of you out there.
We'll see you on the 29th.